What's going on, guys? I'm Ryan here with Michigan Storm Chasers. We have an active pattern setting up. If you guys been paying attention and watching our videos, staying tuned to our Facebook page, posting updates about the upcoming weekend into early next week. And that still appears to be the case. We have a few updates to go over, though. Let's go ahead and dive right on in. So let's go ahead and start with Saturday. All right, we do have a marginal risk that extends over into the western parts of the UP from Houghton over just into the Marquette County area, down toward Iron Mountain, over back toward Ironwood. That marginal risk also extends further south. It does clip Berrien County in far southwest Michigan, and it's pretty close there to the West Michigan Lakeshore. So paying attention to Saturday, especially Saturday night. Overall, lower Michigan should not be impacted too heavily. Current thinking, at least, is that. But we are going to watch Saturday night in particular. We'll get dive into this a little bit more, a little bit later on the video. And then also we have a Sunday risk. We do have a slight risk also very close to Michigan. It extends actually into Berrien County. So once again, Berrien County within that 15% slight risk for Sunday. And once again on Monday, we do have a slight risk once again. Berrien County there. It's in close proximity to the state. Overall, we do expect these to get expanded, or at least marginal risks should be added in later on in later time frames. So back to back to back days here of potential severe risk close to, if not in Michigan already here. Let's go ahead and dive into a few other things here. First and foremost, the CSU Learning Model. If you guys are new here, the CSU Learning Model is a model, basically think of it as like an AI type of model, throwing out its best guess of where the highest probabilities of severe weather will occur. So if you watched our video yesterday, it did show Southwest Michigan in a 15% yellow area there for Saturday. Now that has shifted back to the west. So Saturday's kind of trending down according to the CSU. This is Saturday, so we do see a little bit of yellow bumping into the western UP there. We also see the lower Michigan and also central parts of the UP in a lower probability there of 5% according to this model here. So just overall takeaway from this is that Saturday's threat is trending downward here. But keep in mind, we can see we can see very quick ramp ups or ramp downs with these types of systems here. So just keep that in mind as we move toward that Saturday, Sunday, Monday period. So let's go ahead and jump into Sunday now. The entire lower peninsula is within the higher probability corridor here, according to the CSU Learning Model. So we're going to watch very closely here as we get closer to Sunday. Jumping ahead to Monday as well, southern Michigan, south central Michigan, well within that higher probability corridor as well. Go ahead, jump into Tuesday. We still see South Michigan within that higher probability corridor here. So the CSU Learning Model still picking up on potential severe weather probabilities here in our state. Keep an eye on that very closely. Now, we do have some more models to look at here. We have the NAM model in particular. Now, the NAM, we're going to go ahead and preface this by saying the NAM model does overdo some things quite often, so take it with a grain of salt here, but it is our first shorter term model that has come out in regards to Saturday. So this is your overlap of wind shear with instability here. We're moving into Saturday. There is your environment according to the NAM model on Saturday. Now we noticed that the higher probabilities have shifted to the westward. The NAM model is in agreement with that. It should be mostly across the lake into Wisconsin, Minnesota, perhaps Illinois and Iowa as well, but Western UP should be on alert for sure. But as we push into that Sunday afternoon, evening time frame, the NAM model does say the better environment shifts over into basically the entire state of Michigan here. But in particular, this corridor here across south central Michigan does have a decent environment showing up here on the NAM model. That's where the model ends, though. We're going to have to wait for new models to come out. This is Sunday evening, roughly from 5 p.m. to right around 8 p.m. We're going to keep an eye on that for sure. The environment that we click on here for like the forecast sounding, all that jazz, it's advanced stuff here, but it does indicate that we may be looking at damaging winds, perhaps large hail, as well as tornado threat developing conditionally. We're going to go over that a little bit later on. We're not going to lock anything in just yet. But the NAM model is showing out a lot of instability with a lot of mid-level shear, but it is weak on a few points. We're going to keep an eye on how other models come in as well. So let's go ahead and jump over to the GFS model. The GFS is a longer term model that shows us a little bit further out. Back this up to the early morning run of the GFS, looking at the exact same model of instability overlapping with wind shear. Looking at that Sunday time frame, there is Sunday according to the GFS model. So the NAM model has that better environment further south here. The GFS kind of agrees with that. It's an entire state is within that general atmosphere here. But notice the orange color showing up here across southern Wisconsin, brighter yellow showing up across southern Michigan. The general consensus here on Sunday is the environment will be favorable. So we gotta get that lift going. We gotta get that moisture going. We're gonna have a lot of things working against, or working for this, but a few things also working against that, which we'll dive in once we get closer and narrow this down. So just keep in mind, Sunday is the first bigger day to watch here. Even though there's no general risk yet for a majority of us here in Michigan, that Sunday time frame definitely keying in on for our first potential threat. Now we know we have Monday, Tuesday, and also potentially Wednesday to get through as well. Going ahead, jumping into Monday, that environment does shift again once again into the lower part of Michigan. There, the GFS model does throw out a few areas across Michigan with a higher overlap of that wind shear instability. Keeping an eye on that very closely. Again into Tuesday, that environment does shift to our south, according to the GFS, and that's likely going to probably happen. Honestly, when we have these domino effects, we have back-to-back days, shifting of these risk areas like outflow boundaries, cloud cover. A lot of things work for or against these threats. So at one point at some point during this time period here, that threat should shift out of the state with outflow and perhaps cloud cover from previous day's storms. Just not going to sure what day in particular. This model says Tuesday. The threat does shift just across the border into Indiana and Ohio. As we get into Wednesday, that threat shifts even further south, and that should put an end to an active pattern here. So, again, general takeaway between Saturday and we're going to say Wednesday, but probably closer to Tuesday. From Saturday to Wednesday, though, is going to be that general time frame to watch, with Sunday being the first bigger type of day potentially on the table here for us here in Michigan. Again, hazards, timing, exact locations still unknown. We're still 4 days out from a lot of this stuff happening. Let's let some more time for it to develop, let the models come in and agree with each other. But overall, I do think still the damaging wind threat will be the primary concern here. But again, heavily dependent on your exact wind shear. If there's a cap, there's a lot of things going into this, but definitely a damaging wind setup when we look at the broad scale synoptic pattern here. So once we have more confidence here, we're going to let you guys know. We should have some more details perhaps by tonight for Saturday, but also tomorrow's video should feature Sunday a little bit better for time frames as well as hazards. So come back tomorrow morning / afternoon for our video update there on our YouTube channel. Overall, for Saturday, we are going to say damaging winds and perhaps large hail would be the concern for the Western UP. That's only because it's in the day 3 time frame here. The wind shear doesn't look overly concerning for tornadoes, but definitely damaging winds and large hail on the table here for the risk areas. Could this be expanded? I know a lot of you guys are going to ask these questions, expansions, upgrades, stuff like that. The answer is yes for all these days. We're still a few days out, so stuff's going to change. We're all doing here is just kind of communicating, hey, we got some activity coming up, pay attention. But specifics will definitely come perhaps tomorrow for Sunday as well. So you guys have a great day. Stay tuned to our pages and make sure you hit the like button on your way out. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a great